He's like my dad in a lot of ways. Once he and I got together, I knew that the combination was going to be magical. Those words once carried warmth. Today, they carry weight. Clive Davis has passed away at the age of 94. And with his death comes a wave of memories, grief, controversy, and unanswered questions that the music world has been sitting with for over a decade. Because whenever his name comes up, so does hers. Whitney Houston. And so does a note. A handwritten note that Brandy has never revealed, handed to her just hours before Whitney was found dead in her hotel room at the Beverly Hilton. For years, people have been obsessed with that moment. What did it say? Why did Whitney come in person? And now that Clive Davis is gone, some online are once again asking whether Brandy might finally feel free to speak. So let's get into it, because this story has never stopped sparking questions. According to public reports, Davis's publicist confirmed that he died peacefully at his Manhattan home after dealing with respiratory health issues. His family released a statement describing him as an iconic music legend whose vision, instinct, and relentless pursuit of excellence shaped the soundtrack of countless lives. They said he discovered, mentored, and championed the greatest artists in modern music history, leaving a mark on culture that will endure for generations. And for many people, that's exactly who he was. But for others, the reaction to his passing has been far more complicated. Even though Davis lived a long life, the news landed differently depending on who you ask. Fans who grew up listening to the artists he helped build felt genuine loss. But critics, and there are many, have spent years pointing to the darker side of the music business he helped shape. Artists like TLC and Toni Braxton have spoken openly about their financial struggles despite achieving massive commercial success. The recurring argument has been that the industry, under powerful executives, too often favored record labels over the artists who created the music. Those debates didn't start with Clive Davis, but his name has always been central to them. It's also worth being clear, many of the more serious accusations that have circulated about him online have never been proven. They should be treated as claims, not established facts. Whitney Houston was, without question, the most significant artist connected to Davis's legacy. He first encountered her in the early 1980s and signed her to Arista Records when she was just 19 years old. From the beginning, he positioned himself as one of her strongest professional advocates, helping introduce her to key industry figures and guiding the development of her self-titled debut album, which became a worldwide phenomenon. Whitney herself described him as her industry father. She acknowledged that they disagreed at times over creative choices, but she also spoke about how much she valued his experience and knowledge. Wisdom, she once said, when asked what made him different. His know-how. For a lot of artists, I wanted the guidance. I wanted to know what made a hit record, what made me special. But as her career grew, so did the complexity of their relationship. Reports and biographies have suggested that Whitney began seeking more creative freedom and greater control over her own direction. By 2012, many believed the two were no longer as close as they had once been. Around that same time, one of the people Whitney appeared to trust most was Brandy. The two had first connected in 1995 and built a genuine friendship over the years, with Whitney often serving as a mentor to the younger singer. Their bond was visible on screen when Whitney played Brandy's fairy godmother in the beloved 1997 television film Cinderella. Fans loved seeing them together, and that project reflected something real between them. So when Whitney walked into a room where Brandy was doing an interview alongside Monica and Clive Davis in February 2012, the visit seemed, on the surface, like a friendly gesture. She briefly spoke with Monica, mentioning she had nearly drowned earlier that day. She hugged Clive Davis, and then she handed Brandy a note. Some have speculated that a moment of distraction, perhaps Whitney calling her daughter Bobby Christina over to greet Clive, gave Brandy a private window to read it. But that's interpretation, not confirmed fact. What happened in those moments remains known only to the people who were in that room. What we do know is that after the interview ended, Brandy and Whitney reportedly spoke on the phone for nearly 3 hours. 2 days later, Whitney was gone. That timeline is what has kept this story alive for over a decade. Why did Whitney come in person? Why the note? What could have been so important that it required a handwritten message passed quietly between friends? Brandy has never answered those questions publicly. The only detail she has shared is that Whitney told her she was going to get better, and that one fragment, given everything that followed, has only made the mystery more painful. Since news of Davis's passing began circulating, some on social media have suggested that Brandy might now feel more comfortable speaking. The implication being that perhaps she stayed silent out of some kind of concern related to Clive Davis. But there is no verified evidence supporting that theory. There is no proof that fear of Davis was the reason she kept the note private, and there is certainly no confirmed evidence that he was connected to Whitney's death in the way some online claims have alleged. Those remain unverified rumors. When Brandy and Monica reunited in 2012 to promote their collaboration, Clive Davis was involved in supporting the project. Some reports also suggested he had interest in a future business relationship with Brandy. But none of that has ever been publicly confirmed, and drawing direct lines between those business dynamics and the contents of Whitney's note is speculation, not fact. The broader context, though, is worth understanding. Whitney's career has often been used as a case study in how complicated the music industry can be for its biggest stars. Early in her career, Davis assembled an experienced team around her, which he described as building the strongest possible foundation for a new artist. Critics, however, have long argued that such structures can also become a way for executives to maintain significant influence over an artist's career and decisions. One frequently cited example involves a potential collaboration with Michael Jackson. In 1987, Jackson reportedly wanted Whitney to appear on "I Just Can't Stop Loving You" from his Bad album. Whitney was said to be interested. It didn't happen. Years later, when Whitney's own song, "If I Told You That," was in development, Jackson was again reportedly considered as a collaborator. That also fell through, with public explanations pointing to scheduling conflicts and concerns about leaks. Some fans have theorized that there were deeper business reasons behind those missed opportunities, noting that Jackson was known for securing unusually strong ownership rights over his music and that Whitney may have been influenced by how he handled his career. But there is no verified evidence that anyone deliberately prevented those collaborations, and those theories remain unconfirmed. Whitney did go on to record with other legendary artists, including Aretha Franklin. And in 2001, she signed what was described as a landmark recording agreement reportedly worth up to $100 million, one of the most significant deals in the industry at that time. The contract included a large upfront payment with additional compensation tied to future releases and commercial performance. It underscored just how valuable she had become. But the years that followed were difficult. Album sales declined. The music business was also dealing with the widespread impact of digital piracy. And Whitney was facing serious personal and health struggles that affected both her voice and her ability to perform at the level people had come to expect. Online rumors have also claimed that her contract contained provisions that would benefit the label in the event of her death. While recording agreements often include clauses addressing what happens if an artist can no longer fulfill their obligations, there is no verified evidence supporting the more extreme versions of that claim that have spread online. Whitney's death in February 2012 devastated fans across the world. And almost immediately, attention turned to what happened on the night she was found. Clive Davis's annual pre-Grammy party was taking place in the same hotel where Whitney was staying. When news broke, Davis chose to continue with the event, a decision that drew intense public criticism. Many felt it should have been canceled immediately. Supporters argued the evening was already underway and that Whitney would have wanted it to continue. Davis himself addressed the criticism directly, saying that Whitney's family had been consulted and that the party was something Whitney had always loved. But for many people, that reasoning did not sit well, and the debate around that night has never fully settled. In the years since, theories about Whitney's final days have never stopped circulating. The note, the phone call, the timeline. Every detail has been analyzed and reanalyzed. But as of now, there is no public evidence confirming that Whitney believed she was in danger or that the note she gave Brandy contained anything that changes the official understanding of her death. What does remain is the conversation about Clive Davis's legacy and what it represents. Many credit him as a visionary who helped introduce the world to some of the greatest voices in music history. Others see his legacy as a reflection of an industry that gave enormous power to a small number of executives, often at the expense of the artists themselves. Whitney Houston sits at the center of both sides of that debate, a reminder of how talent and business can become deeply, sometimes painfully, intertwined. Whether you see Clive Davis as a music legend, a complicated industry figure, or something in between, his impact will be discussed for a long time. And as long as the contents of that note remain private, the questions will keep coming. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think Brandy will ever reveal what Whitney wrote? And do you think she should? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this video made you think, give it a like, share it with someone who loves music history, and subscribe if you want more stories like this. I'll see you in the next one.